All right.
Happy Jazz Fest!
Yes, Jazz Fest, our favorite time of the year.
How's everybody doing out there? All right, that's right. It is indeed the happiest time of the year.
It actually is literally my favorite time of the year to be
I
in
know.
New Orleans. Mardi Gras is starting to compete because Harper loves Mardi Gras, but I love Jazz Fest in New Orleans. We're missing it, right?
We are you kidding me? Missing.
I'm sure everybody else is too.
Anyway, well, let's get started.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ann, and this is Lifestyle Business. And we've got a great show for you today. Jazz Fest themed, of course. We're wearing our Jazz Fest ensemble. Everyone here was like, whoa, you guys are really bringing it up today. We are so pumped. We're going to be hosting Amy Domangue and Gerard Ramos.
Exactly.
Fun fact, it's Gerard, not Gerard.
Yep.
But he doesn't correct you if you say it wrong.
Exactly. Here to talk about INNO Conf and the new format this year, obviously now that we're all sheltering in home, but carrying on the great tradition of a conference between the 2 weeks of Jazz Fest. And excited to hear what Amy has to say and what she's up to.
Well, she's probably got a lot of
in
new
the
stuff.
midst of all of this craziness. It's going to be right up her alley.
Right up her alley.
So we'll see what the deal is
but
there.
Before we get there, why is Jazz Fest the happiest time of the year for you? Trap.
Because we met at Jazz Fest.
There you go. Good answer. Good answer. I mean, he met his last wife at Jazz Fest too, but who's counting? Anyway, so realistically though, what would you say is your favorite Jazz Fest tradition?
Well, getting out to the fest, seeing all the music, eating the great food, hanging out with friends. You always seem to run into people, making your way around the track, all of that sort of stuff. Anything? Am I missing anything?
You're really crushing it, crushing it with the details.
Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite Jazz Fest traditions is something that we do pre-Jazz Fest, which is we drop by Felipe's.
Oh yeah.
And we get ourselves some delicious margaritas. As we've gotten older, we can't handle the nuclear
Nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb. We can't handle that. So we got to go to Felipe's and get ourselves some fresh margaritas to help with that trip out to the fest.
I've got bourbon in my coffee today, just like, you put it in the flags. People have, booze in those. Did you know,
seriously? I did not know that.
All of those flagpoles, people are using that to sneak in booze to Jazz Fest.
Literally first time I've heard that.
Pro style.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've been festing for years, way before you, and did not know about that tradition. I might have thought about bringing in a flag one of those years. For all those tarpers out there, you can enjoy WWOZ from the comfort of your home in your lazy boy chair without having to trek chairs in. So maybe there's an upside.
Yep.
But ultimately, we are missing it. One quick question for the audience. I know we've got a lot of NOLA folks out there, but what is your favorite food stall at Jazz Fest?
I know yours is Crawfish Monica, right?
It is Crawfish Monica, although I have gotten a bit tired of it. The thing about Crawfish Monica is you have to go early. You got to hit that stand. You never like this, but you got to hit that stand at 11 o'clock. You don't want to hit that stand at 4 o'clock. You don't want end of the day Crawfish Monica. You want beginning of the day Crawfish Monica.
I like the Mama Jamma.
I know, it's one of my favorites too.
And the iced coffee. And, even though you're obviously drinking beers and hanging out, there's nothing like that iced coffee that give you a little
fresh kick
in the pants.
Or the iced tea.
The iced tea
I do
is
like
refreshing.
The iced tea. Very refreshing.
That needs some vodka in it for sure. Strawberry lemonade.
Anyway, that's different. That's not the iced tea, but whatever. Moving on. We're going to talk to Gerard first, but one of the fun things about is, so we did meet at, well, we didn't meet at Jazz Fest, but I did come and speak at your conference during Jazz Fest. And that was Launch Fest. And then that became Collision. And now that's turned into INNO. So Gerard stepped up last year and was like, boom, I'm bringing back a New Orleans-based conference called InnoConf, and we got to attend and speak last year. It was so amazing. I can't wait to see what they have in store for us next week online and also with music tech. So again, it was a great time of year, not only because of the Jazz Fest experience, but also because there's some cool stuff happening in New Orleans during that week.
I'm interested to talk to G about, we talked a little bit yesterday about sort of the production aspect of it, but I think that this is, this is going to be actually important because some of the travel restrictions and is going to keep up for a while, right? So live events, I mean, New Orleans, it's kind of depressing, like, whether if it's, if it ends up being sort of canceled through the end of the year, but there also are going to be some lasting impacts. Some of the conferences that we may have schlepped to and, wanted to be at, but not really, I think those are going to fall off. I don't think there's going to be as much travel necessarily. You're going to travel for stuff you really want to do, like Jazz Fest, but not to conferences you don't. So it'll be interesting to see out of the virtual stuff what sticks around, and talk to G about how they'll be producing INNO.
I mean, we've been talking about travel just generally. So for those of you out there, our parents live on the East Coast. Well, mine live in Canada. And Chris's are over there in North Carolina. And we have been talking about how are we going to go see them this summer with that grandbaby of theirs, because they're not coming to us. And first of all, hoping that we've got antibodies. We want to do that test whenever that comes out in California. And then, all bets are off. But generally, we're like, how do we actually think about that? And one way we're going to think about it is a potential RV across America. Something near and dear, I know, to Jared's heart as well. But we are going to basically we're thinking about getting an RV, loading up the truck with Harper, Hazel, and Kalara, and making our way across the country, maybe stopping and camping in a few of your driveways. So get prepared for that. And then end up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be hosting a little Driscoll Schultz family reunion 5 years after the first meeting.
Seems safer and maybe more fun than getting on a plane right now. By the way, have you seen how people are traveling? I'm going to put this in the chat. This was an article from this morning in the New York Times. But if you do have to travel, and I guess some people still do, people are like wearing full PPE, full gear, masks, hazmat suits on planes.
Now's the time for the deep sea diver costume.
Yeah, right. So anyway, travel is going to be different. It's different right now for sure, right?
Yeah, and Cameron Jackson's watching over here on Facebook Live, and he says he's got time, so maybe he's going to come out to California, pick us up in our RV, and drive us home.
Yeah. What about commuting? All of the folks that we have friends that we're in Sonoma County, an hour and a half from San Francisco, and people that drive down. Anybody looking forward to, yesterday was Earth Day, and we're all psyched that the environment looks so good in LA and in Delhi and in all of these cities.
Finally, Mother Earth's getting a break.
I know.
She's like, it just took one little global pandemic to shut you guys up inside.
Are people going to go back to full commuting now that everybody understands how effective work from home can be? And obviously work from home, you can tune in to LPTV.
I think it's a valid question. I think a lot of people are going to be asked. First of all, from a company perspective, just from a liability, if you've got employees saying, I'm concerned about my health or my well-being during the pandemic, it's going to be really difficult for you to be like, no, you're obligated to come into the office. And then when you see the impact of it, and if you can still get your work done, similar to sort of the no vacation policy, what it actually does is says maybe companies will start to change their practices, and they're like, great, our friend Mandy drives from Sonoma to San Francisco, and we're like, maybe in the future she does that for one production meeting a week, And the rest of the time, she's able to work from home. And all these people are going to be like, wait a second, I actually see my kids in the morning. I can have dinner with them at night. I don't spend hours and hours being exhausted and ruining the environment on the road. Like,
and the team can, the company can give up their office, give up that expensive lease, and just join a co-working space.
Join a co-working space, or even
gonna
drop into be like, hey,
boom for co-working
we're going to drop into a co-working space every month or so.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I think it's going to have some lasting benefits to things. And just like we talked about in terms of resilience and Katrina and stuff like that, reality is that there will be changes, and some of them will be good and some of them will be bad. But you know, maybe one of those changes will be more work from home abilities. Because honestly, I think, and I used to get frustrated about this back in the day at Google, which was when you look at policies that big companies, and we would always sort of throw them out the window, but when companies make big policies, they often are just copying policies from other companies and over again. There's not a lot of innovation. And so what ends up happening is that you get the lowest common denominator. And so like your employee referral program looks like the same program that McDonald's has, and it's kind of a different thing. And so I think in this case, work from home is always the bad manager's tool to basically have to not actually manage their team, right? So it's a lot harder to manage remotely. So if you're not a good manager and you don't have a strong team, you're like, I want them in the office at 9 o'clock and I want to make sure that I can see what they're going to do. It's going to be the rise of the good manager and the rise of it's what I create and not how long I'm in the office. So I think that's where it's going to go. We've been ahead of the curve.
No more punching the clock for us.
Who knew? We've been ahead of the curve. Co-working, it's the future. It'll really happen. Also, as we get lots of calls from our landlords mentioning the personal guarantees that we don't have, I think commercial real estate is going to have to make some big changes in the future, because people are going to be like, why am I risking my house to put my company into a building when I could just sign up for a co-working space or have them work from home, and we could rent a nice conference room at a hotel once a month to get together and hang out. Anyway. And now let's move on to talking about how that is actually coming to life in person, in reality, in next week with INNO.
All right. G, we're going to bring in, see how you're envisioning the future of conferences and future
All right, well, we're
work.
bringing him up as the co-founder and CEO of Revelry, a digital innovation hub headquartered in New Orleans. Gerard Ramos built a business on innovation through disruptive technologies. But when he broke his neck just 2 days before he and his partners were about to launch INNO, a cross-industry conference connecting the top trailblazers from around the world with the New Orleans entrepreneurial community, Gerard learned an important lesson in innovation through personal adversity and rolled on. And we are so delighted to have you, your fixed neck, and your fish here today to talk innovation in a moment of crisis. How you doing, man?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I was trying to wear my shades because these lights are so bright and spirit, but
you got a good setup there. Good Zoom setup with the fish and everything. You got well lit. So let's jump in. I don't know if everybody knows the story, and I'd love to hear it in your words, because about this time last year, you were gearing up for the first INNO, and I forget exactly what day the accident happened, but I remember I got text messages over the weekend. But not to take you back to a memory that's a tough memory, but I think it's an interesting intro, because here we are in the second year of INNO with another disruption, another stuff to go with. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were, as Ann mentioned, when Collision decided they were taking off for Toronto, I just kind of put a website up and jumped on the opportunity to fill that gap that they sort of proved could exist here. Anyway, we marched forward to hosting this conference in our first year, and as we're ramping up, had a lot of friends coming in town to speak and help out. And the Friday before the event, so that would be like tomorrow, a year ago, I was at home and my wife and daughter were at Jazz Fest, and I was with my son, and I was on our company all-team conference call at 4 o'clock, and just about to make an announcement for someone on the team's promotion, and my son started screaming for me because he was about to jump off the couch. He was in Spider-Man mode. So I went sprinting across the house to catch him, and when I jumped, I hit my head on a crossbeam and caught him. I still have my AirPods in. Finished the announcement, and my neck wasn't feeling too hot. So anyway, brother ended up coming over, went to the urgent care just to get x-rays, just to check on it. And they were like, yeah, you're not going anywhere. So off I went to an ambulance. The hospital was in surgery a few hours later with a broken, fractured teardrop fracture on my C3. And then I got C3 to C5 fused. And before I went in, I was like, I'm going to be able to make this conference, right? And me and the surgeon were on the same page with that, but family and everybody else was definitely not. So ended up not being able to make the conference and make all the intros and the connections that I wanted to make. But Sloan and the team really pulled off an incredible event, and was super stoked for what they did, and all the feedback that we gathered was awesome. And so yeah, pushing forward to this year, we had lined up incredible speakers. We're starting to get a lot of sponsors in, and in comes COVID-19, and we had to make a decision to either cancel, postpone, or switch to virtual. And we decided to go virtual, which has been really interesting. All of our speakers, most of our speakers, stayed on board and will be joining us. Yeah, that's going to be next Tuesday and Wednesday. So pretty stoked to test the whole virtual conference route out. As we're sitting here talking to you guys like this, I think this is the new normal for now anyway. We'll see how long it goes, but yeah, definitely lots of things changing and just rolling with it, and so for this, we basically offered everyone who had purchased tickets, we offered them the option to for a refund, or they could donate their ticket purchase to GNO Inc.'s Pivot program. And we did the same thing with our sponsors. So that's sort of what we're working on, partner with GNO Inc. to help fuel the innovation that's happening here, specifically in New Orleans, around the COVID-19 response and pivot from the local entrepreneurial community. And there's been some incredible stuff happening. Some groups have stepped up and have all their 3D printers running and printing PPE equipment and stuff like that. Other people I know have shifted their distillery businesses and other businesses into hand sanitizer manufacturing and bottling. And it's been pretty incredible to watch the community, step up to the plate and help out in every way they can. So really want to support that effort. And I think some of those innovations I think will expand beyond even New Orleans. So really excited to see everybody on Zoom next week. And if you haven't registered, go to innoconf.com. Somebody posted over here. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gee, one of the things we've been talking about is sort of the future of conferences. And I know you've got, so what sort of things do you have up your sleeve in terms of experience that we should be expecting for next week?
Yeah, so, I don't know how it's going to go down, really. We're just sort of shooting from the hip and winging it, but I think there's going to be, everything from just like how are speakers going to pitch their slides to what's going to happen in intermissions, how people bounce from one session to the next session. Yeah, so there'll be some surprises in there. Hopefully we'll bring some of that New Orleans flavor and love to the mix and highlight some of the people that we worked with last year and we'll continue to work with in the future. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. like I said, we have an incredible lineup. We've got, innovation leaders from Oracle and Visa and VMware and Twitch, and it's going to be a good lineup. There's a lot of good content. We've got some workshops, so it'll be some interactive stuff going on, and hopefully, hit on the notes that we sort of set out to, and just kind of continue to forge those connections.
That's right. I mean, the show's got to go on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think it's a chance for us to all, I mean, who knows if it's going to be smooth or what it is. And at the end of the day, like, this is the time for us to try stuff and experiment. I mean,
yeah,
that's what we're doing.
Broadcast studio right here. We're now TV show stars.
Yeah.
Hoda and Kathy Lee, without the wine. And Hoda's the one you want to hang out with. Kathy Lee's the loud one. But I think it's interesting because it'll be like, this is sort of going to be the new normal. So even just getting through that experience of trying, you're going to learn a ton. And then you've got that to sort of think about how you engage over time. So I think that's why I'm excited about sort of participating and seeing how it all kind of goes down, because who knows what it's going to be like.
Is there, do you have any ideas for sort of the conference LobbyCon kind of, bumping into people? Is that, chat room? Do you have anything like breakout room? I'm just curious how you guys are sort of thinking about it.
Yeah, so
I just want to know if there's a VIP area.
There's a VIP, well, there's like a speaker's lounge. So yeah, the sort of run a show, I think we're publishing it today, or it published yesterday, but there's places to hang out, and there'll be sort of a speaker's lounge where everybody kind of gets together before they go on, and similar to how you guys have this set up, I'm sure. So there's some of that, but it's definitely not going to be the same, right?
Yeah.
Like, most of the relationship building and all that kind of stuff at conferences sort of happens in the hallways, right? So where's that gonna live, and how is that gonna go down? Is that gonna now be in Slack, and like, how do you really, make those connections? So that's something that we're gonna test a few things out over the 2 days and see sort of what works. Because we were doing this, and the team's done a great job with the website and marketing and all that kind of stuff. We've got some inbound, and we're helping people with their conferences as well. And, conferences can be so interactive, right? And there's training, there's workshops, there's, talks and panels, and then there's everything else and all the social aspect of it too. So we do have like a little happy hour section and some other social interaction points. But yeah, it's not going to be the same. And just as we're all kind of getting used to, working from home and remotely, and, entertaining kids and juggling all sorts of things, it's just another part of doing business that's going to change fundamentally right now. I mean, here in New Orleans, the mayor and the city have basically, put the brakes on all festivals. And that drives a lot of consumer tourism, obviously. And, to go along with that, the hotel industry and the restaurant industry it's gonna take a while to come back, because I don't know that businesses are going to be coming here for their conferences and conventions and meetings and all that stuff. We're talking about a $11 billion industry, and I don't know what's going to happen on that front. I don't think it's going to come back overnight. And I think that how the platforms that are coming out of this sort of crisis are just getting started with how those interactions are going to happen online. And it's going to be interesting to see how it all develops. But yeah, we'll see.
It's cool. I mean, it's great that you're doing it. And I think this is going to be the prototype for future conferences, right? Even every conference is thinking about it, but I can tell you my idea of getting on a plane and going to a 50,000 person conference is like pretty low on the list of things that I would actually care about. And in reality, like, I don't think that's going to be a unique experience. And so,
and that might be a while before that comes back.
And that might be the opportunity, right? Which is maybe there are smaller gatherings of folks that are doing things. If you're doing things in an online world, can you make it more intimate than actually doing it in a big, large scale conference piece? And yes, you don't get the like natural bump in and try and like work your way through and get to do the hustle like Melissa talked about yesterday. But at the same time, there's neat ways that you can kind of think about how you curate and cultivate those connections throughout. So,
yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm excited to come next week. I think one of the things that we've found through this show and doing this is that how much we're craving this engagement. I mean, you know, seeing people we've been having on, seeing people who are watching right now, you know, we're all holed up at home and miss each other. So, you know, there's this opportunity that we really miss one another. And so even though it's not the same and we can't give each other a big hug and all of that, like people want to see each other, engage, have a shared experience.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
We can't wait. And I'm pumped because I'm speaking on Opportunity Zones.
OZ.
Yeah. So, G, you were talking about, let's shift gears for a second here in a few more minutes. Where would you, I want to, you know, sort of see if we can, you know, capture, John Atkinson wrote a editorial in City Business about the importance of the innovation economy and, you know, the startups and small businesses right now in New Orleans and overall, because you just touched on a couple things with the tourism industry. We know how devastated the restaurant industry and restaurant tours are, you know, convention business, all of that. I mean, it's a little bleak. And then you add to that oil and gas and what's going on with oil and gas right now, which is obviously a cornerstone industry in Louisiana. Where do you see all of this headed? And, you know, obviously, you know, hopefully you're well positioned and others are, and, you know, but, you know, we got some tough times ahead, you know, in the economy.
Yeah. How much time do we have? It's crazy. The impact is significant, and it's, I think, at Katrina levels, you know, not only here, but everywhere. And, you know, there's as much as, you know, you can run strategy and analysis on what things are doing and where markets are going and what's happening today. Like the data, historical data is not really there, even though, yeah, we've had crashes before. This is completely unprecedented. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, you know, we have a startup studio, and as we're trying to prioritize like what we're focusing on and what businesses we should take to market, what is the timing, and, you know, as you know, with starting a company and building a business, right? Timing is a huge factor. What's going on in the market, addressable market, capital, fundraising, all that kind of stuff comes into play. And with all this external factors that are going on and macro impact this has, it's really unprecedented. So it's super hard to place any bets and do anything. And, you know, shifting from, as a, you know, founder and CEO, from like peacetime CEO to wartime CEO, and really Revelry took a, you know, we're not in a bad position, but we're not in a great position. We lost some customers. We had some customers, you know, scale back a little bit, and We've had some delays in taking some products to market, but we're pivoting as much as we can and really trying to do everything that we can to keep the lights on, keep our people employed. We did just close on the PPP loan a couple days ago. So we made it in that first group, and I saw your tweet this morning or yesterday about working with community banks and smaller banks, and that's how we did it. Can't recommend Credit Human enough for the across the board from everybody I've worked with over there on this whole process was amazing. So from where I sit, I'm really just looking for how I can shift the business into addressing the demand that is out there in the world. Not only just that's there today, but what we think is going to change and where we can bring impact long term. Because you've got your short-term needs that every company has, and right now it's very much in survival. Growth is sort of secondary, and obviously there are companies that are pivoted into certain sectors that are in like Zoom or and various companies that the timing has just been incredible for their user adoption and all that kind of stuff. But you really got to pick your battles and place your bets. And I don't know exactly what to do. I don't know exactly which way to go, but wake up every day. It's, a new challenge, same challenge, different day, and keep pushing forward. And I think the resiliency of this community here in New Orleans is pretty incredible. And everyone's sort of stepping up to help each other from, the help and the strategy around just the PPP stuff. But, like I said, all of the companies that have pivoted to address the demand and work with healthcare and food distribution and, all of that is going to be interesting. I think restaurants are going to change. I think that the experience of restaurants is not going to be the same as it was for a long time.
Sure.
I don't think people are going to be, it's just not going to be as fun. Like you said yesterday, you go sit down at a table and your waiter comes with gloves and a mask on to serve you food. I mean, and then general, I just don't feel like people are going to want to risk going out to eat at a restaurant versus dying, a chance of dying, or contracting the virus and then spreading it to somebody else, even if they're asymptomatic and young. It's just it's a tough spot for everyone to be in. And so I think that's going to change. I think there's going to be a ton of innovation in food services and delivery because not everyone loves cooking all the time either. Yeah, so there's just a lot of opportunity, but identifying where you can find that opportunity and how to maximize it. I know that sounds a little off with all the sadness in the world and the tough times that everybody's in right now, but this is the time, I think, to really push into and lean into following your passion and finding those projects that can really make an impact that you can get behind and finding the market where the market demand is. And if you combine those two things, then regardless of if you got laid off or you're employed and you're pivoting, like there's a lot of opportunity. Go and do the things you love and figure out a way to make money later.
I think that's a great way to leave this, which is, it's funny because most of us are, we're in survival mode, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you've got a business, and yet at the same time, and especially for those of us who have families and homes and need that to be a long-term piece, but I think the reality is that this is also a great time to throw it all out the door, throw it out the window, rethink it, eviscerate your current business model because the pandemic's doing that for you. And through that, come up with ideas. And it's interesting because it's counterintuitive when the risk is so high, right, of devastation.
You might
that's
die
the
anyway.
time you might as well go for it, right? Because at the end of the day, you can sit here and count your squirrels and try and be there at the end of the process, or you can use this time to innovate and thrive.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
if you
in
don't,
the
you might die anyway.
yeah, I mean, INNO's the theme of INNO is cross-industry innovation, and my talk is going to be around, good artists borrow and great artists steal, and it's not about being a thief, right? It's about looking at what's working in other industries and what's working in your industry, and what's been done before, and how can you do it better.
Yeah.
Starbucks wasn't the first group to sell coffee, right? So many things. You guys weren't the first group to build a co-working space, but you're making it better. And how those business models can shift, and that's where you can find magic and really make an impact and find success, hopefully.
And I also like your point, which is now's the time to think about, what is it you really want to do?
Yeah.
And it may feel like there's no safety net, but there's no safety net to safe stuff anyway, right? I mean, the unemployment numbers are there. The economy is tanking. No better time to figure out what your purpose is, because there's no guarantee in this world. And with that, thank you so much, Dee. We're going to see you next week
We'll see you
at INNO. I'll hit you up in the VIP room for free beer. And I hope you have a great next week, great conference, at least, in highlights. G's not going to spend the first weekend of Jazz Fest working on his conference and missing Jazz Fest. He's just going to work on his conference and not miss Jazz Fest.
Also not going to spend it in the hospital, thank God.
Upsides.
Well, we're glad to have you healthy and back.
Before we intro our next guest, I just wanted to highlight an exciting thing that will be up on the show page from the Wine Down yesterday. We hosted Melissa Gisler from Rock Juice, and Melissa has generously offered 20% off all Rock Juice orders for the Launchpad Nation and community. If you are a state that allows alcohol distribution and mail orders, this is a great chance to get access to good wine when it's really the time to do a lot of cocktails and drinking, but you don't want to have those pesky hangovers. So check that out.
Ariel, will you put her URL in the chat as well? And
put that URL. That's right, Scott. Unfortunately, I can't request green M&Ms in the speaker's lounge, but I will take some free beer. All right, coming up, why don't you help Amy on? Amy Domangue is the CEO and co-founder of Jessie, a Techstars and Cedars-Sinai-backed digital health company. Amy is an expert in healthcare marketing and innovation. In 2018, Amy launched Jessie with her co-founder, Karana Williamson. Today, Jessie has grown into one of the largest networks of online health services, improving the way people access, experience, and manage their care, and often cost less than the cost of a copay or deductible. Talk about a hello, Amy Dye. How are you today?
You're ready for Jazz Fest too.
Kathy Lee and Hoda. So.
I wish I was running into you at the fairgrounds.
Oh man, like last year.
Who wouldn't love that?
Great. Oh.
So, kind of interesting where G has had to pivot in his world of taking his real life conference online. The pandemic has got to be a good thing for Jessie.
Yeah, no, it's great. Every single time I talk to investors, they want to know about analytics, and I usually like to steer away from that because we launched the platform in January. We did nothing to promote the site. We still haven't really announced a massive launch because we're making some tweaks. So, the first month it was slow, second month, and then I just looked at what April has looked like for us, and it's 5 times what it was last month. Which surprised me, to be honest. But I think people are more open to virtual care. Exactly. They know what it
have
is.
To be, right?
They have to. Exactly. They want to make sure that they're getting the best price for the service. And secondly, we were really focused for a long time on employers and getting the platform to users because employers are the number one health insurance provider. But now what's happened with COVID is we see that more individuals are independently looking for healthcare services. So that's kind of why we've shifted a little bit to refocus on a direct consumer model.
Wow. And I mean, that's a big shift, obviously.
Yeah.
We're jumping right in here. Why don't you just back up just 1 second, and then you're going to get to a question. But will you just give a little bit of a intro to everybody watching about Jessie and what you are now, so everybody understands exactly what you're doing?
Sure thing.
Before, let's back up. What is your favorite Jazz Fest tradition?
My favorite Jazz Fest tradition. Probably just eating. I'm just going to the food stalls and getting some crawfish bread. I keep it pretty simple. Yeah, I love going to the stages. I love bouncing back and forth, but really I go there for the food.
Amazing. Well, Travis is organizing some sort of food delivery situation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With Jazz Fest?
Does he deliver to California?
No. No, I think he was literally Gelman. We'll find out. But basically, yeah, he's doing, I think he's launching it's probably for charity, a little bit of a to-go fest on your Jazz Fest numbers. I don't know if it's come to full fruition, but I definitely saw it pass by in the social media realm.
That's a great idea. I love that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Jamma.
Yeah.
I would have fried chicken, jamma, crawfish Monica, the Vietnamese one, obviously. I would just have all of those.
Crawfish Monica tastes good at any time of the day, by the way.
No. You don't want a 5 o'clock.
If anybody
Monica.
could deliver right now Jazz Fest food, they would be crushing it.
Melted.
Maybe Travis is gonna. Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree on the crawfish Monica timing. I mean, you're right. If you haven't had it and you want some crawfish, it's not going to be bad. I'm just saying, if you want your best crawfish Monica experience, hit it at the beginning of the day before it starts getting all kind of. Anyway, so tell us about Jessie.
So Jessie is a platform that provides navigation to virtual care services that it's the full gamut. So if you're looking for a refill on your birth control prescription, or you are experiencing something that's more urgent and you want to connect with a provider to see whether or not you need to go to the emergency room or it can be handled via telemedicine, then those are the types of services that you can find on the Jessie platform.
Amazing. And you were talking a little bit about price comparison and things like that. Obviously, there's telehealth services that you can get.
Yeah. So we have over 15 vendors that are on the site. I think that we're a little ahead of the game because most individuals are still getting exposure to what virtual care is. But what most users don't understand is there's actually lots of virtual care providers, and the prices and the pricing models, they fluctuate from vendor to vendor. So for instance, for mental health, BetterHelp, they offer 1 week subscriptions. Talkspace, they offer monthly subscriptions. But if you were to go to their site and try to shop that out yourself, you're only going to see the monthly subscription. You're not going to know how to get the best deal, how to compare prices, and to compare how many virtual live video visits you get versus instant messaging with your provider. So we've taken all that information and simplified it down to make it easier for the end user to really understand what they're getting for what they're paying.
That's pretty cool.
And it really is super relevant right now. And obviously, as you mentioned, your traffic is demonstrating that. But, we're in an environment where if you aren't sick with COVID or what you think might be COVID, you probably shouldn't go to the doctor or go to the hospital. You should be seen online. But we're also, sort of the double whammy is understanding how overloaded the healthcare system already is, and the inefficiencies in the system. This is really a better way, in the same way that traveling across the country, it's so hard to get a doctor's appointment, all of that. It actually is the future, right? I mean, it seems like this is going to accelerate telehealth, anyway, right? You're well positioned because of that.
Absolutely. One of a really interesting piece of research that came out is that end users were actually they were getting more time with their provider through virtual care than they were with an in-person visit. And the reason why is because when you go for an in-person visit, when you sit in the waiting room for about an hour, then you finally get seen by the provider who's completely stretched thin. They come in the room for about 7 minutes. They review all the information that the nurse practitioner has recorded. You have a short, quick, brief, but pleasant, interaction, and then poof, they're gone. But with virtual care, so most virtual care visits, when you see the pricing, like for a teledoc visit, it's about $50 an appointment. That's going to buy you about 15 minutes of that provider's time, which sounds short, but it's actually longer than what you get when you go in person. So you're giving up your time and you're paying for your copay for that visit versus just paying $50 out of pocket.
That's amazing. So there's been the rise of sort of these very niche solutions targeted to very particular personas, like Roman to gentlemen who have interest.
Erectile problems.
Yeah, for ED.
Right, yes.
Right. And so it's like less embarrassing to going to your own doctor or whatever the case is. This is a much more open and broader platform. So tell me about your strategy there, as opposed to sort of being just filling the niche of I need to get my birth control updated.
Yeah. So when we first started off, we were very hyper focused on women's health. And then we found, because it is such a new space and people are trying to grasp what it is, in order to get users to the site, we really had to open it up. And it's the same thing, when you're talking about companies like Roman, Hims, Hers, that are focused on what I call it's more the I would like to have, not I need to have. It's great for attracting users to the site. But at the end of the day, if somebody's going to pay something out of pocket, especially when it comes to health, it has to be something that they need to have. Like, I need my birth control prescription. I need my heart medication because it's about to expire. And that's where virtual care can really offer a great deal of value. Virtual care still is not, if you have diabetes, you've never been diagnosed with diabetes, that is still going to require an in-person visit. So you can get your diagnosis, you can start to figure out how to manage your health and your condition. And then after that, when it comes to, look, I just need to make sure that I get my refill on time because I forgot to schedule my visit and I'm almost out. I'm 2 days from being out of my medication. Telemedicine is a great way to get access to those things on demand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the other thing is that it feels like some of those other point solutions are solutions that make the real benefit they offer is they make it possible for you not to have to ask the awkward question, right? Because if you're going to that site, they're like, don't worry, you're coming here already because this is what you want. We know exactly what you're looking for. It's kind of like if you were wanting to buy like drugs or something, you're not having to be like, I need some drugs. They're like, you showed up at the drug dealer's office.
That was what it was like to get a medical marijuana card in California for all those years.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right.
Very similar.
MMJ.
So Amy, like, where does this all go? Because these are sort of, it's an alternative to the traditional doctor and provider now. But at some point it's going to merge, right? Your own provider will probably start seeing you this way. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of these are not necessarily currently integrated with the insurance system. I don't know, do they take insurance? But at some point, does this all merge because our hospitals and our doctors are so overwhelmed? Healthcare costs are going through the roof. Our insurance costs are going through the roof. It only makes sense that there's going to be a convergence.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of changes in the reimbursement models for virtual care in just the past year. With COVID-19, we've seen everything quickly fast track. Medicaid, Medicare are pushing for more virtual care visits to get reimbursed. Whereas before, Medicare, Medicaid, they would say, if it's an initial visit, we're not going to reimburse that type of a telemedicine visit. But now they're saying, okay, with COVID-19, if this is the only way we can get this patient in front of a provider, we'll pay for it. So this is now that Medicaid, Medicare are opening the door and creating codes for telemedicine services, we're going to see that more of these virtual care vendors are going to be able to get a network with large payers like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Health. And that's going to be fast tracked because of today's public health epidemic. But what I think is really interesting is the pricing models that these companies have come up with is that, for that 15-minute visit with a provider, that's about $50. So most people are going to pay anyways, a copay $25. If they have a high deductible plan, they're going to have to pay even more. So at the end of the day, they're paying more with their insurance than they are if they were just to use a virtual care visit. So that's a big education piece that we're going to be working on later this summer, is making people, especially those with high deductible plans, aware of how to best use those plans. What we see financially, if you supplement your high deductible plan with virtual care, just paying cash for those low issue services, and then save your high deductible in case something massively terrible happens, then you're going to spend less out of pocket than if you continue to pursue the traditional type of care of going in to see a provider.
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea. And that totally makes sense because a lot of people don't want that high deductible because they want to be able to go to the doctor. You're just saying reallocate what you would budget and spend on that into telemedicine that you pay directly and keep a high deductible plan for something catastrophic.
Exactly.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
All
That's
right.
helpful for us because we have a high deductible plan for catastrophic issues. Like
okay.
having a baby.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Amy, I just want to let's zoom out a little bit. What's it like for you running a startup in this environment? I know you're on the road, fundraising, going to accelerators. You've done a lot, and you've really had your head down on building this business for a number of years now. How is this impacting you? I mean, it seems like the market is meeting you where you already were now. So that seems positive, but just share a little bit more about what's going on.
I would say, you finally get to ignore all the advice that investors have given you, and you really get to kind of follow what your gut instinct is. I think that's been the best part about COVID-19. When you're out fundraising and you're pitching your idea, you're just constantly getting bombarded with information.
Yeah.
And you get less.
We call it mentor whiplash.
Yes, mentor whiplash. Yeah, I mean, we went through Techstars. We've gone through tons of advice. And so what COVID-19 has really provided is an opportunity to just get to hear, read articles on what consumers are saying and how people are reacting in terms of accessing health during a public health crisis. And then reacting based off of gut of what we think is right. And so far what we've seen is people are responding really well to that. So one of the things that we first saw when COVID-19 came is, the CDC, Cleveland Clinic, they all launched their COVID-19 assessment tools. And we felt like those assessment tools were a little bit skewed, especially with the hospital systems. It was pretty much, no matter what you put in, you needed to schedule an appointment with one of their providers right away. So we decided that we were going to, even though it doesn't serve us financially, create more of an unbiased assessment tool to really help users understand what to do in terms of their symptoms. And one thing that we found really interesting is a lot of people were experiencing severe symptoms that didn't turn out to be related to COVID at all. They turned out to be related to stress. So we integrated our behavioral health offerings into what we've aggregated for COVID-19 to help users understand that if they're dealing with symptoms that are actually related with COVID-19, where they can get resources, or if it's mental health services that they need related to the stress created by COVID-19, where they can go to get affordable health as well.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up, but I also know on a personal note, you are married to a man on the front lines. So Brant's doing okay, and is he's working where?
He is working at Auctioner, main campus in New Orleans and Slidell on the North Shore. So yeah, he's he's emergency medicine. So when the crisis came, he went running. I think he loved the excitement of it all. But it's one for me, it's been a great source of information as we've kind of built out new tools for the platform. And then of course also enlisted his help in creating the assessment as well. So
Amazing.
Free support. I'll take it all I can get. Yeah.
Well, thank you for what he's doing and you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. We hope he stays healthy and safe, and we're grateful for both of you.
And he just got that test as well, the one that you were referencing, to see if he has the antibodies or not. So it's here I imagine if it's here in Louisiana, it's got to be available.
It's coming to California. They did an initial test in Santa Clara where they tested 3,300.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And they indicated through the test that the amount of antibodies in Santa Clara was like represented, if you did it on a population basis, like 50 times the number of people have actual antibodies within. So it's like a crazy amount. And they think that actually it's been here, and it was in the New York Times, so it's not just sketchy services that
we're not giving out medical advice here on the show.
But I'm hoping that it comes. I'm hoping that I get access to it. And
there's a question in the chat, Amy. I don't know if you can see it, from Dorian, about what the cost of the test is.
So it was free for him.
For healthcare workers.
Yeah, I see Chris. Hey, Chris. So yeah, it was made available to Auctioner frontline workers. So that's how Brant got it. I'm just hoping that if he does have antibodies, that they extend it to spouses as well. But we'll see. Yeah, I'm not sure how much it's costing. Yeah,
that's exciting. I'm glad it's here. Testing is going to be a big factor in terms of how we start opening up, obviously. Yes, there is no final data on any of the studies out there, and I can't wait to get more information and have that validated through appropriately scientific methods. So thank you so much, Amy. It's great to see your bright face. I wish we were seeing each other all week next week. This is our time.
Yeah.
So glad that you are finding traction amidst turmoil. It's great for you and well deserved, and good to see you. We'll let you go, but we'll see you soon.
All right. See y'all soon. Thank you.
Bye.
All
right. You want to take the wrap up?
All right. Well, great show today. We lost our monitor here. Thank you, Ann. Well, thank you to everybody who joined us today. Gerard Ramos and INNO Conf. We're very excited to join his conference next week. Really interesting to hear what he's thinking about as the conference goes virtual. Second year in a row where they're dealing with unforeseen circumstances, but honestly, I'm really grateful that they are pushing ahead with it, because it's actually exactly what we all need right now, is to kind of stay connected here. And Amy Domangue, that's exciting that she is getting some traction amid the turmoil we're seeing with the COVID environment. Telehealth is super important, and obviously we're all connecting virtually right now on this show, and it's a better way to see your doctor under many circumstances. Will create efficiencies in the healthcare system. So
good luck to Amy. I often say companies are either a slog or hold on to your hat, or they have hold on to your hats moments. And when you meet the moment like that, Amy, you might be ready to hold on to your hat.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave you with this today in light of both of those guests I wanted to share this this Lenin quote, Vladimir Lenin. There are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. I think we're going through a huge transformation right now. We saw it with a couple of the with both Amy and G. We are also missing all of you and missing Jazz Fest today. Hopefully we'll be getting on WWOZ listening to Jazz Fest this afternoon. I know many of you will be.
Jazz Fest in place.
And we will see you again next week, next Tuesday. Thanks everybody for joining us.
For those of us who are interested in where my hat came from, it is an incident of drunk shopping that I'm not allowed to do anymore because it costs me too much money and I don't have any. And so you can check it out at Jenny Kayne, JenniKayne. And they have lovely straw numbers like this that'll shade you through the summer months.
I'm sure that'll be in the show notes too. And don't forget about the order for Rock Juice, 20% off. That'll get you drunk and then you can go shop. You can
get drunk, go shopping, and only feel guilty and no hangover the next morning.
So long, everybody. Happy Jazz Fest.